Hey everybody, Noah here with the fourth and final mobility video. Today we're going to talk a little bit about stretching. So in the past, there's been some conflicting studies and science has come out on stretching. So I'm going to talk about what we do know and some things you can implement like today. So there's a few different ways to stretch. There's static stretching, which is the typical one a lot of people do, is just kind of putting your leg out there, arm out there, and we're holding it for so long, and you'll feel the muscles kind of start to stretch. That's static stretching. There's dynamic stretching, which is more motion involved. That's sometimes done as a warm-up. That's what we do at the gym quite often. It's dynamic stretching. There's other ones that are more neurological based, and some different techniques used out there. I won't get into depth into those. I will talk about a few cool tools you can use. A method called contract relax, or agonist contract, or agonist contract relax. So a few different ways to help stretch a little more effectively. All right. So first thing I want to talk about static stretching, which is something we do at the gym a lot. We do quite everywhere. The best amount to hold a stretch has really been shown to be 1 to upwards of 5 minutes. Just holding that, whether it's a hamstring stretch, holding it right out there for about 5 minutes is the best way to see what we call plastic change, and that's actual change in the muscle. So doing it before workouts is not recommended because it actually has been shown to decrease muscle force. So that's why we do dynamic stretching before activity and static stretching after activity, because if after activity, it doesn't matter if we have decrease in force produced by our muscles. So I'm just going to show you a couple of the methods I was talking about earlier with just the typical hamstring stretch. So right here, I have my leg out in front of me. All right, you reach towards the toes. This is just static stretching. I'm just holding this. I feel a pull in my hamstrings. My hamstrings are very tight at all times. So someone's going to be, I don't have much motion. You guys will probably be able to touch your toes. Yeah, I'm pretty close. I'm not quite there. So if I'm just static stretching, I'm going to hold this to 1 to 5 minutes. Even more than that, whether it's like you're sitting at your desk or whatever it may be, and you just kind of hold the stretch for a little bit, it's the best way to do it. As long as and once again, going back to those foam rolling methods, it should not be painful. If it increases 3 out of 10 pain, if your pain does get that high, you're not stretching right, you're doing a little too intense, you're not actually going to see much change due to that holding and guarding of your muscles, and it's going to increase the sympathetic system, and we want that parasympathetic system. That's why I'm always talking about breathing. Breathing is very important as we go through these stretches, as well as foam rolling. So the first one I'm going to talk about is what we call contract relax method. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to contract the hamstrings, and then we're going to relax the hamstrings. How we do that, there's a couple different ways. We can either pretend we're driving the heel into the ground and almost like we're trying to bend the knee, but don't actually let the knee bend. And so this is firing the hamstrings. I feel them get a lot tighter. I'm pushing down with my heel, pushing. I'm going to hold that for about 6 seconds, and then I'm going to relax it. And what this should do is actually, after firing it, it should actually tire. This is how we describe it. It's not very scientific, but tires the muscle, and then you're able to stretch it a little bit further. We're going to hold that, and then we're going to push again, holding this new position, push, and then relax after that 6 seconds and hold it. And then we're going to hold the static position for 30 to a minute if you can. So what that does is by contracting the muscle and then relaxing the muscle, it allows us to gain more range and kind of hold those positions a little more comfortably. Now we have another type called agonist contract. So an agonist muscle is the muscle on the opposite side of the joint that does pretty much the opposite motion of the muscle you're trying to stretch. So we have the agonist and then the antagonist is how I should describe it. So we have the hamstrings on the bottom here, which we're trying to stretch. So we're actually going to fire a muscle on top to pull us into more motion. The body will naturally inhibit the muscle that is being stretched to allow it to stretch more when you're firing a muscle on top. So What I'm going to do is pretend I'm using my hip muscle, my hip here, this muscle, and I'm going to pull my hip towards, you're going to see my quad contract towards my, kind of like my knee. I'm going to almost be pulling myself forward. And by contracting the muscles, the hamstrings will actually start to relax. By contracting your psoas muscles, and your hip flexor muscles and your quads, it will help relax the hamstrings. So you hold that for 6 seconds, pull, like you're pulling yourself forward. After 6 seconds, you relax, and you should get more motion. All right, so those are 2 different methods, and then you can use them together. So we have the contract and relax, and then we have the agonist. So how this one looks is, first thing you do is you use the contract. So where I'm contracting my hamstrings, I'm firing them up, I'm pushing my heel into the ground, holding for 6 seconds, and then I relax, and I'm going to pull myself forward as I stretch. I'm firing these muscles again. All right, so now I'm able to touch my toes. I've done this for a little bit. And then you can do that up to 3 times. You can do it even more than that if you want. I usually just do 3 times. So you push down again, and then I'm pulling myself forward. So I'm contracting my hamstrings, and then relaxing my hamstrings and contracting the muscles on top. And this just is a more effective way to help increase that range of motion. So it's not just passive, just reaching towards the toes. You're actually firing some muscles that should help you further that stretch. All right. So as I mentioned, breathing is really important through all this. Make sure we're breathing. And I wanted to show you 3 of my favorite exercises for probably the tighter muscles of the body. So first one's the pec. We sit all day at a computer. Well, most of us do, not everybody. Kind of get those forward shoulders rounded right here. We kind of want to open them up. So I'm going to show you around this table here. You can do this on the floor, though. I think the tables has a little better view. I'm going to put it lengthways along the table. I'm going to sit right below it, and I'm going to roll right on top of it. So if I'm not careful, I might roll off from one side to the other. That's how the foam roller is. What I'm going to do is put the hands up in front and slowly let them come off to the side. All right. And what this is going to do is stretch my pec muscles in front of my chest here, and help just open up my shoulders. I'm just going to hold this, focusing on my breathing and just relaxing. Be careful getting out of this one. Try to go, if you want to roll off to one side, avoiding that really hard crunching motion. The second one, this is a Thomas stretch. And pretty much what this is, I don't know if this table will be high enough, but if you have inside of your bed or a couch, you're going to lay right on back. You're going to bring one knee to your chest, and you're going to let the other one just kind of hang. All right. And what this does is pulls on those hip flexor muscles and lets them stretch kind of downwards with gravity. If you have somebody to help stretch, you have them actually push down on your leg here. That will help further the stretch. All right. But once again, make sure it's not painful. That's the Thomas stretch. So those are my first 2 favorite ones. My last one is for the lats. All right. These lats tend to get tight, and you don't have as much shoulder motion because of it, or can't rotate as much. So what we do here is we go into hands and knees on a bench or a table or something. It's also going to help the back a lot, the mid back area. So if you have a towel or a stick or something, you can hold the stick up in the air here. It's just going to help with activations a little bit more. And what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of let our body drop, and our elbows are going to come up above our head, keeping my elbows bent. And I'm kind of starting to arch through my upper back, if you couldn't tell. So instead of this, I'm going to start arching my middle and upper back, and as I feel a stretch through the back there. And once again, you can hold this. You can try the method of pushing into the ground, the contract relax method, or you can try pulling yourself further into the stretch. A few different methods you can use there. And hopefully you try it out at the gym, and maybe you like some of them. All right. Hope you learned something from this and took something away. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all soon.